Okay, so in the second part of our Texas Chainsaw discussion, now we're going to talk about the remake from 2003 and the prequel to the remake that came out in 2006. So you're the one that saw this one in theaters when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I only saw vicariously through everybody in school that saw it in theaters and was talking about it, and I would hear that on top of what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until the DVD release that I became acquainted with all of the crazy shit that's happening here and the brutality of it compared to the previous movies.
Mm-hmm.
And this darker element that was in like that mid-2000s place of everything has to be grittier and more realistic. And that seemed to be the approach taken here, especially with the bookend scenes that kind of set it up as this true crime thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where even though it's, technically based on a real serial killer, obviously it's gone completely down its own paths, and this whole... I imagine people see, based on a true story on the cover, they assume the name Thomas Hewitt is a real name. So that's the approach that this movie seemed to take. So in this era, where things were getting more brutal and grittier, how did you feel at the time versus now?
I still like this one.
I know you've been a big defender of this one for a while.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we're definitely in Leatherface is a big Hulk territory. Which I found out through reading the trivia. Apparently, Andrew Bernarski is Leatherface because Andrew Bernarski heard this movie was being made and sought out the filmmakers and asked to be cast as Leatherface. Which is interesting. Let me take on a role where you can't even tell it's me.
Yeah.
But
where physicality is important.
Yeah. Unless it's two.
Yeah, because obviously most people knew him as Chip Shrek from Batman Returns.
And Zangief from the Street Fighter movie.
Yeah. And you probably wouldn't have even imagined.
No.
But it still kind of blows my mind when I think about the fact that he is Chip Shrek. I still can't put two and two together in my brain.
I mean, this is another case where he's definitely a focal point compared to the last couple movies, but it's still R. Lee Ermey as your big bad.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because when we were watching it, I don't remember watching the prequel. You're convinced I did before we rewatched it, but it's funny. It's funny to think that you think, oh my god, R. Lee Ermey's the sheriff. How are they going to get out of this? And then you watch the remake and you find out he's sheriff because he just killed the last sheriff. It was like, well, I'm sheriff now.
Yeah.
And no one questioned it because there's no one left in town to question it.
And we were talking about how one of the important things about this franchise typically is that feeling of who can you trust and who can you not trust. And you think you seek out help, and then when you get to it, you gradually realize it's not help at all. And he's one of those characters here, and it's in a lot of his performances where it's just kind of instant bad vibes. And what I was telling you was R. Lee Ermey specialized in characters you never want to meet. And I feel like this is one of the prime examples of it. But I do think it works really well. It's not necessarily a case of I can't imagine anybody else taking over for this part. But for this particular movie, I feel like he's the perfect casting for the direction they wanted to go. And what the outcome is. And bringing in some levity with some really dark humor in it.
Yeah.
Which is something that's coming almost strictly from him.
She's dead, boy. She ain't gonna bite you.
Yeah.
This was... The one knock against this one, though, is this is the first one that we've abandoned the dinner scene, which is usually an iconic scene in a Texas Chainsaw movie.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad I may not have seen it at the time after how much I've come to love the original movie, and it's become one of my favorites. Because when I would hear that they would remake this, I probably would have had it in my head, all I want is for them to perfect the dinner scene. So I probably would have lost my mind if I was more aware.
And we didn't even touch it.
Yeah.
Didn't even touch it. The closest that we got to a meal was Jessica Biel drank some drugged tea and R. Lee Ermey poured a beer on her. That's the closest we got to a meal.
Yeah. You could almost give them credit for deciding to just not touch what's already perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It feels like when we get to the climax, there's something missing, and it's clearly that.
Yeah. Now this is our biggest group that the Sawyer/Hewitts have dealt with since the first one.
Yeah.
Because we got 5 here.
Who are introduced all in this opening scene where there's so many close-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do go down the... Because we've talked a lot about, like, reboots that kind of do their own thing, or, like, reinterpretations or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to go to this one and see that it kind of basically is in the structure of a remake. Mm-hmm. Like, that's become such a different thing in recent years. Mm-hmm. To go back and, like, this is, like, we gotta hit this beat of The Hitchhiker. Even though we're gonna do something else entirely, still it feels, like, similarly structured. Mm-hmm. And I do remember one of the things you talked about a lot was this Hitchhiker scene and how different it was. Mm-hmm. With the way she's somebody that got away, is that the assumption?
Yeah.
And she just commits suicide in front of them in this very graphic way. Like, she could have been a very sympathetic character, but they make it this very horrific moment, and they sort of jumpstart the horror with that.
Yeah.
And that shot that, like, goes through the hole in her head. And, yeah, so there's things here where I feel like they're commendable, but I also don't know how I feel about some of the choices made. But
I think the way they do the Hitchhiker in this one too is a very organic setup to how they get mixed up in everything.
Yeah, because obviously he would have to come into it, and once again, kind of throwing in that dark humor, but also really horrific scenario where they have no choice; they just have to ride with her until they can do something about it. So, and then how they sort of step by step get into these circumstances. And then that's when we kind of start getting into the horror angle of it. We get, like, the walk by the camera trope. We get all this kind of stuff. Now, something that I kind of want your opinion on when we're looking at it from this mid-2000s place of so everything of worth now has to be dark and gritty, otherwise it's too happy or whatever. Or it's too family-friendly or whatever. So everything had to be dark and realistic and all that. What's interesting is when we talk about the torture porn era, I tend to credit Saw and Hostel and their popularity sort of being what put that into the mainstream at this particular time and took off and owned horror for quite some time. People got sick of it pretty fast. And there was a lot of people that it always never appealed to. But this was, this and the first Saw are the same year, so this was kind of also at the beginning of that. And I don't know about you, but I would say this movie probably does fall into the torture porn area. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but I think it's more borderline than you would think.
Okay.
There's a lot of, there is a lot of psychological aspect to it where there's nowhere to go.
Yeah. Like,
she goes to this trailer where she finds these 2 oddballs, and then she puts together, oh, that baby's stolen.
Yeah. and just that general idea we've been talking about of help is never help.
Yeah.
And like you were talking about before, where it's like meeting the increasingly weirder characters as we go. And it's like sometimes it could just be like quirky characters, but in the Texas Chainsaw universe, that's always going to probably be more threatening as it goes.
Yeah.
And as more is revealed about who they are and how deep their connections are in more ways than one.
I remember when I watched this in theater, one of the scenes that got a laugh was whenever the boy was in the window, and I guess it's a grandma or something, and she was like, I will not have you talk bad about this family, and then the little boy pops in the window and she, you stay out there with the dogs.
And really just that whole setup when we get like all the home vibes and we see the giant house you were calling the fortress.
It's huge.
We've got the white sheets that were made to be spattered with blood at some point. We're just anticipating that.
I think there's some good things going on here. Is it the best movie? No. Is it the best movie in the franchise? No. It's probably I would say it's the third or fourth best movie in the franchise. Probably.
Okay.
I do like that we added some different aspects, like Arlie Ermy being an authority figure. There's more family members to deal with.
Yeah. It feels like a lot more, actually.
Yeah, they feel like a whole clan at this point.
And this builds on that better than we were talking about in The Next Generation.
Yeah.
When it's like people just kept coming into the equation. And it's like, good lord, how many of them are there? Like here it actually feels gradually more scary as we see like how big the family is. And how, like we were saying, increasingly weird they are.
Yeah.
And ultimately murderous. And threatening.
Yeah. And you have, like, the gas station that you had that the grandma runs and all of that. And it's just, like, there's a lot of the same beats, but they do try to put some spin on it somewhere to where it's at least a little different. So you're not watching the same movie again.
And there's enough to where they don't rely so heavily on callbacks. So when a callback does happen, it's like, oh, like when we were rewatching it, and he falls and he starts cutting his leg, and I was like, classic.
Yeah.
classic Leatherface. But then they went a step further when she chops one of his arms off. That's new.
Yeah. But he still ends up at the end in the middle of the road circling with his chainsaw.
I remember that was something you had built up to also. And I think the people at school, I had heard about that also, where it's the getting away moment, and they throw in one more jump scare. And it's like the biggest one.
Yeah.
When he just kind of comes out and just barely misses the core.
Yeah.
It's like the big moment. That's a pretty cool moment to sort of end on, to kind of get the audience in one last way, but in a way that doesn't feel cheap.
Yeah. One thing I do think... with this one and the original, they're kind of obsessed with the slaughterhouse.
Yeah. This one is one where I do feel like it's also another one we were kind of talking about the wood scenes in the third movie, where it kind of goes in circles for a bit. Like we get to a point in the middle here where there's a lot of like walking around, and then it's sort of like, and what we were talking about, that kind of goes into what we were talking about with the trying to put it in some sort of dark reality is what it felt like they were doing here. Because the other movies kind of got more heightened, especially 2.
Yeah.
But this one is trying to feel like it's in its own reality, but I also think that ends up making it feel a bit lifeless. Quite literally lifeless with all the dead bodies, but also like a lifeless experience. And like it doesn't feel like there's anything particularly inspired at the end of it, despite some of those moments thrown in, like getting an arm chopped off or something. And it's like, I can see where it was maybe trying to take the original's approach of saying, this is what happened and we're just showing it as it is. But it doesn't quite... What's funny is it's literally trying to put it as like footage at the beginning and end. But it still never quite captures how just organically the original movie felt like that without explicitly even being in that style.
Yeah. I think, too, for some reason in the 2000s, the studios were obsessed with making everything gritty and realistic. And not everything needs that treatment.
Yeah.
You know, the example I always go back to, because this is the one I know the most. Do not get me wrong. I do enjoy the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. But, again, we're talking about a billionaire dressed as a bat fighting a clown. There is a fantastical element to this. Just like with this. There is a monster out there wielding a chainsaw wearing someone else's face that is actively decaying on his own. We don't have to be gritty and real. It's okay to be fantastical.
Yeah. But at the same time, while we feel that way, it is also nice to have like all variations.
Yeah.
Where, like, the fact that we have this one and something like the second movie, and we have, just... We're always going to be grateful for the first movie, just for existing. So yeah, so like in one sense, it is like that was a kind of an annoying era after a while.
Yeah.
Everything had to be real.
That's why I'm kind of glad that we've moved away from that a little bit. Like with the most recent Superman, James Gunn came out and was like, "Hey, did you know Superman had a dog? It's going to play a big part in this movie."
Yeah.
And everybody was like, "What?"
Yeah. But there are moments where it's like it does feel like it goes a bit darker, like the scary scene in the original movie. It's one of the most famous scenes of the original movie when Leatherface first comes out, uses the hammer, and then pulls the guy in and closes the door.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, when that scene happens in this one, I actually do like how fucking heavy that hit feels.
That, and there's like a little like build up with the cartoon drum.
Yeah.
So it works really well there. Now in the original, I think one of the things that makes it work is it's totally silent when it happens.
Yeah.
And you don't get a music sting until the door closes.
Yeah, you're just watching something feel like it's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like we were saying, is what it feels like this one's going for,
Mm-hmm.
but this one's also... I don't know if it's more theatrical than it thinks it is,
Mm-hmm.
or if it's just... I don't know.
Yeah.
Or if it was just well balanced in that moment.
Yeah. I'm sad, too, that we've gotten away from the decrepit grandpa, because that's always been funny to me in a dark way. Like in the first one, you had the grandpa you weren't sure was alive, and the second one, you had the one that kept dropping the hammer.
Yeah.
And Drake was like, "Let's move this along," whack! And then in the third one, like, grandpa didn't have eyes.
Yeah.
And then in the next generation, there was an old man at the table, which we didn't talk about this in our video, the fucking dead bodies at the dinner table. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And this one, like, we couldn't go there because it didn't have a dinner scene, but they tried to tackle it in the next one. There's just a lot of the surrealness is missing in this one.
Yeah.
Like, part of the fun of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is the absurdity, and there's not a lot of absurdity to be found here.
I think that's what I meant when I was saying nothing feels particularly inspired, is the Texas Chainsaw movies are so unique, and this could be any other horror movie from its era.
It could.
Yeah.
It absolutely could. With the gritty, dark, the slow-mo gets on my nerves. I hate the slow-mo.
It's worse in the next movie we're going to talk about.
I hate that in the mid-2000s we were doing everything in slow-mo.
Yeah.
I hate it. I want to blame Zack Snyder, but I can't throw all the blame on him. But, like, you were talking about, like, surrealness, that, like, a sequel like Texas 2 would absolutely not work in this universe.
Yeah.
There is no way to make it work. This universe has no version of Chop Top.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing. Like, the other Texas movies where they had the surrealness like that did have an air of fun to them. This movie's not fun.
Yeah.
Like, there's a fun factor missing. Arlie Ermey can be fun, but, like, there's not... Like, Next Generation had that. Next Generation is terrible, but it's fun to watch how bananas it goes.
Yeah.
And this doesn't have that. Like, the back of the box literally is the house, the kids in the van, and Leatherface holding a chainsaw, but Leatherface doesn't do anything to stick out.
Yeah.
So, like, while I do like this movie, I do miss the fun of the first four. Because even the third one had some fun elements.
Yeah, it does.
But this one is just like, it's more about the misery.
Yeah.
And I think the darkness doesn't help with that.
Yeah. And like I said, the torture element, especially with the leg thing, like that was, even for Leatherface, that's excessive. Like, yeah, you know, we'll watch Leatherface cut a dude's face off and wear it and do that as a whole process. The leg thing seemed weirdly out of character.
Yeah. I was going to talk about something that was brought back. I do like that this one brought back killings and threats in the daylight.
Yeah.
Because in the second and third one, most of the stuff that happens that's threatening is at night. Like, it feels like it's safe during the day. This one does not feel that way. This one kicks off in the middle of the day.
I don't even think Next Generation had a day scene until like the epilogue.
No, it starts with them driving in a car after prom.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2, like there were day scenes, but you never saw Chop Top or anything in the day scenes. Like when he was at the radio station, it's at night. The scene with the car at the beginning, that's the threat doesn't happen till night. During the day, they're fine.
Yeah.
The first one, a lot of people got axed while it was daylight.
Yeah.
The only person that got axed at night, if I remember right, is Franklin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a great scene because, you know, he comes out of the dark. That works.
Another great jump scare.
Mm-hmm. And this one had that. I appreciate that it brought it back. But I do think it leans a little heavy on the realism. It leans a little bit heavy on being a gore fest. But I still do like it, but it's not as fun of a watch. Do you have anything else about it?
I think that pretty much sums up my thoughts. So
Okay.
I guess we can go on to the prequel to this one.
Mm-hmm. Here's my thing with prequels. I don't mind prequels, but I don't need everything to have an origin.
Yeah.
And this one definitely ties into the, look what we're doing. Look, see that? That's how that happened. I don't care. I don't care that he found the chainsaw just hanging out in the slaughterhouse. Like, I'm perfectly okay with just, he had a chainsaw in his garage.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. The way the uncle lost his legs, didn't really care. The way Arlie Ermey became the sheriff, I did kind of care about that because I was like, how the hell did that happen? So that one I'm cool with. But even then, I think you could have started it with him being the sheriff and you wouldn't have missed anything.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that this more blatantly points to the cannibalism, but they talk about them becoming cannibals out of necessity.
Yeah.
Like, it's not something that they do for fun. Which I think kind of crosses... I'm not sure how I feel about that, because they are all a little off. Like, Arlie Ermey straight up shoots the sheriff. But I didn't need them to turn to cannibalism out of desperation. Them just being cannibals would be fine.
Yeah. It's one of those things where one of the joys about the original movie is that they were just there. Like, they just existed, and that's what they were. Mm-hmm. And the scary part was stumbling across that.
Yeah. Like with this is where the grandpa comes in. You get the feeling that this has been going on for generations, that they've been cannibals.
Yeah.
With this, they kind of hint that they've all been there forever, but there's not much to tie it to that. Outside of Arlie Ermey flat out saying, it's been here for generations, and we're not moving because the town's dead. Like I understand, like callbacks can be fun, but flat out, hey, this is how this happened. Hey, did you know that's how that happened? I don't need it. I don't need all of that. Just tell a story. I don't need to know where they came from. I don't need to know where the hell the chainsaw came from. I don't need any of that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with just telling me a story. This one, I think, dives even harder into the body horror stuff and the torture porn stuff.
Yes.
Than the first one did.
It's basically the whole middle portion.
It is. It essentially is.
And mind you, I guess it is building up to his first mask. Mm-hmm. Like him with Matt Bomer's face is like when Jason first got the hockey mask from Shelley.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the moment.
Yeah.
But also at the time in the Friday franchise, that they didn't know they were making that. They didn't know that was an iconic moment. Mm-hmm. It was just, he got another mask.
Yeah, and with this one, it's like they kind of tried to force it to be an iconic moment.
Yeah. Like,
I feel like the torture and death of Matt Bomer is 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, in the original, like, you got caught, you were gone, you were dead. Ironically, the one that dies the fastest as far as time from when they were in danger to when they were killed is Jordana Brewster.
Yeah, the very end.
Yeah.
The final girl not being a final girl.
No, because I remember sitting here thinking, I was like, is she just not going to tell anybody when she gets away? Oh, she's not getting away.
Yeah.
And she takes somebody else out with her.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like that this movie's version of the ending of The Mist. There's the help. Oh shit, didn't get there in time.
Yeah. And it's like you were saying, it's one of those things where being a prequel, they can kind of play with expectations a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So your first thought might be like, oh, so do none of these people make it out alive? But then you get kind of caught up in the final girl trope and you think, well, obviously she's going to get out, and how's this going to go this way or whatever? And you don't realize that the movie's just going to abruptly end after he kills everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a point for the movie. For sure. Going back to what you said with the horror trope, I don't know how Arlie Ermy survived his head being repeatedly beaten off the porch.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
I was trying to think if there was any reference in the one before this of him, like, missing teeth or
He
anything.
pulled the teeth out.
Oh, okay.
See, we got something in common. We got something else in common.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just put that together 10 seconds before you asked that question. But yeah, I don't need all of that explained. I don't need, like, just tell me a story. I feel like Texas Chainsaw is one of those things that doesn't really require a prequel.
Yeah,
And I feel like the whole prequel aspect was just to be like, hey, look here, look here, look here. Because once we've done all the look here stuff, it's just like every other Texas movie.
Yeah, the best way you could say they handled origin story stuff is the fact that when Leatherface is born, and then we see how he grows up in the slaughterhouse and all that, and then get to his adulthood, is just like in the opening credits. And it wasn't like several scenes of a long movie.
Yeah.
So at least I guess it had that going for it. But still, it's another case of, you know, like when you're watching the biopic of a famous person and it literally begins with their birth, and you're like, we really didn't need to go back this far. Like, I don't care about the person this much. It's like the same for Leatherface.
Yeah.
It's like you see him, this woman giving birth to him, and you're like, oh, we're going back this far.
Yeah.
We didn't.
Now, sometimes that does work. Big Fish, that works, because his birth tied into the fact that he has a fantastical life journey.
Yeah.
So there it works. But here, I don't think we needed to do that. Oh, he's a deformed baby that they found in the dumpster. Okay.
Yeah, it's almost cliche that he was an abandoned baby.
Yeah. Especially since it definitely seems like the woman that gave birth to him is the same bigger woman that's still part of the family. So he ended up back with the family anyway.
Yeah.
Unless that's two different people, and if that's the case, like, did you really need two people that were that similar that I could actually get them confused?
Yeah.
Like, was that necessary? So honestly, if we're talking about, like, his origin going back that far, I think it would have been more interesting if he was, like, the baby in the remake. He was a stolen baby.
Yeah.
That I think would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
That maybe they stole him and they disfigured him. That I think would have been more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can say stolen is a different thing than found.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you could tell the story that Arlie Ermy killed these people and they just took this baby in and they deformed it and then grew attached to it, but not too attached to it to where they could still order it around like a hulking monster.
Yeah.
Like, I think there's more they could have done there with that.
Yeah. But of course, like we were saying, it does seem more interested in going down, because we were saying about how Saw and Hostel popularized, like, the torture porn era of this mid-2000s area. And it's like we were talking about how the movie before this predated Hostel and was like the same year as Saw, so it was like kind of coming into that mainstream way about it. here now we're like right in the middle of a lot of new horror is torture porn.
Yeah.
And so it was like basically living, like it was more comfortable living and just being that.
And some of it just seemed more focused on the brutality. Like the scene where Dean does the push-ups and Arlie Ermy keeps beating him down. That's not something out of a Texas movie. Like, look at the first one. They found the girl, they stuck her on the meat hook. That was a Texas movie.
Yeah.
Her on the meat hook is one of the most iconic images.
And the guy getting attacked with the hammer is all very immediate.
Yeah. And that's missing from this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think they really did much of that. There was a meat hook scene in the remake, but I think, judging by what they did with the prequel, they did the meat hook scene in the remake just to say, hey, look, we did a meat hook scene.
Yeah.
Like, they wanted the callback more than they wanted it to matter in the story.
They wanted to play the hits.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the prequel, I think, does some interesting things, but overall, I mean, I don't know that I am going to feel the urge to go back and rewatch it like some of the others.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it really added much.
Yeah, because as far as the characters we're working with, there's not that, slasher movies and horror movies are typically known for the depth of their characters, but in this case we have some stuff like we were talking before about Matt Bomer and his war background, and like cowardice being a big factor with the other guy, and so I like how that kind of comes through in their personalities later. Involving the card where Bomer like takes the fall for him, and it just like keeps showing that guy. Like as far as there like being a big payoff in regards to this guy having like the cowardly tendencies or whatever, it's like there's a little something there character wise, but still not enough to make us really be feeling much when Bomer's getting tortured for most of the movie. And many of the characters are being tortured in one way or another.
Now, one aspect I think they really could have built on, but the problem was they didn't set it up in the first place in the remake, was the grandma being a reluctant participant at first.
Yeah.
That, I think, could have been built on more, but the problem was you didn't set it up at all in the first one. She seemed just as into it as the rest of them in the first one. In the remake, her being kind of not super on board, but just kind of going with it, you could have done something with that. Yeah. But it would require a better setup. But I think if they were going to mine a nugget for character development, that's the nugget they should have mined.
Yeah. I think they had something.
Yeah, there was something there, and then it's just like halfway through they were just like, you know what, she's on board now. Yeah. Like when the girl, and they kind of ping pong back and forth, like when the girl was under the table, and she's just sitting there talking about her tea. And then we get to the dinner scene, and she's like cutting her hair, trying to like make her feel more comfortable. She even tells Leatherface to put her out of her misery. Yeah. So we kind of ping-ponged a little bit. Not as much as Renee Zellweger ping-ponged between emotions, but still there's a little more ping-pong in there. I think there's a character arc in there that could have worked had it been handled better.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I would have done it.
And as far as like other characters, it is interesting you mentioned that about how we do kind of get a dinner scene here, and it's a dinner scene with like more guests. So it's like when her friend is just like completely out of it. There's something to that, and then the idea of having the bikers, which is funny because that's another thing that feels very. The third Friday the 13th has like antagonistic biker characters that come in that then ultimately are attempt to be a help with what the murderous monster actually is, and seeing that in this one where it's like I feel like that has to be an intentional callback.
Yeah.
But the moment where the object of fear shifts, where there actually is a fear in the characters when they're being pursued by the bikers, and then how that escalates into Arlie Ermy sort of being a threat after that, and then Leatherface is kind of even though, Ermy's like kind of what you might call like our main antagonist. We had that whole discussion before. Leatherface is like the most like physically intimidating, like at sight and every other way.
Now I do give credit to the prequel. I believe every death belongs to Leatherface.
That seems right. Yeah.
Yeah, because he kills Bomer with a chainsaw, kills Jordana Brewster with a chainsaw. He slits the friend's throat at dinner, and he kills Dean with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
And he kills the guy that works at the factory. Or the slaughterhouse.
Yeah. Ermi killed the biker girl.
And the sheriff.
Yeah. Lou Temple.
Yeah. Now, I will say, as far as the amount of deaths using it, this one is the most like a Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Because we have 4 bodies to chalk up to the chainsaw.
Yeah. And which isn't a high body count, much like the first movie doesn't have a terribly high body count.
No, it's very focused on what it's doing. But what's kind of funny about it is you set up this biker gang, you whittled it down to the girl, then you whittled it down to Lee Turgensen, and then where's the rest of the biker gang? Yeah. Where the hell did they go? They all just go their separate ways? Like, was Lee Turgensen Ray Liotta in Wild Hogs and they just abandoned him because he was being too hardcore? Like, what happened?
It would have been too much for the budget for him to kill all of them.
I guess. But yeah, I think you can tell they wanted to do something here, but I think they spent too much time being cute with it and being like, look, didn't you wonder how this happened? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But, I'm glad you think it's cool. But, I just needed a straightforward story.
I will say, something else I tend to always associate this movie with is, we were talking before about how you saw the first one of these two in the theater. Mm-hmm. And this was one where we were going to the theater quite regularly. Mm-hmm. So whenever there was a trailer out, we would see that trailer on like every movie. Mm-hmm. And this was one of those trailers that was on like every movie. Mm-hmm. So there's stuff that I will always associate, like when Ermi says, they may not remember what we say here tonight, but in the trailer it's, by God, they'll remember what we do. Mm-hmm. I think in the movie it's like, they'll sure as shit remember what we do or something. Mm-hmm. And then that shot of, at the beginning, after he has the chainsaw and he's like walking on the side of the road, mm-hmm. I think that was also the poster. And mm-hmm. I do like that shot. Mm-hmm. But
it kind of mirrors the hitchhiker from the first one.
Yeah. And so, like, there's...
Not the first one, the remake.
Yeah. And so there are moments in this movie that are burned into my brain, but I do wonder if they'd have that same effect if it wasn't one of those trailers that I saw. Because, again, this movie is going on 20 years old. Mm-hmm. So that's just how long that trailer has danced in my head. Mm-hmm. But, so yeah, there is memorable imagery in there, but I could probably chalk it up to that.
Now, one of the areas that they didn't go like, hey, look what we did, that could have been fun, was the very end. He gets out and just walks down the road. He could have done the spin with the chainsaw, and that would have been neat.
Yeah.
That would have been a cool way to end it. But instead, he just gets out and just walks away.
That's one of those callbacks that would have been welcome.
Yeah. I even made the joke where I was like, think I'll go home now. Like, he should have spun around in circles in victory. It's the first time he's ever succeeded in killing everybody. And he didn't celebrate?
And it's like what you were talking about before, when we were talking about it trying to be too dark and in some kind of reality or something, and how it actually would have, it's so bleak, it would have been helped by more of like the dark humor, like mm-hmm. the surgery scene, when he calls it surgery when he saws the guy's legs off, mm-hmm. and the way Ermi's talking in that scene is a type of black comedy that I feel like would have been more welcome.
I feel like in this series, Ermi is a lot like McConaughey. He's the only one there having fun.
Yeah.
Because he even, like, when he's chopping the legs off, it is a darkly funny scene, because he's like, oh man, that looks terrible, even it up. And they're like, what are you doing? He's like, evening it up.
Yeah. Even though it is one of those, hey, did you ever wonder how this thing happened in the first movie? It's like, no, we weren't, but go ahead. That is a scene that, like, weirdly enough, as gruesome as it is, that's like one of the little bits of levity we get in the movie.
And one of the funniest reactions is Uncle Monty's. Because he's just like, why? What? and he told the grandma, he was like, hold Uncle Monty. And she's like, why? And he's like, because Uncle Monty's not going to like what we're about to do.
Yeah.
So, like, I think if they wanted to go the route they were going, if they wanted to do this, a fun way that it could have been different was, instead of making our victims, the main characters, have the story be told from the perspective of the family.
Yeah, and
have them be the entire focus, and the bodies, the victims be side characters instead of the other way around,
who just kind of stumble into the story.
Yeah, yeah. I think that would have been a better way to go with the prequel. Show some more of that family dynamic and, you know, how it got there. Not like, oh, look at that. No, build something with them. Build a reason why they stick together so much. Yeah. Like, their relationships. Like, that's something different you could have done and still got your point across.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, instead of the movie ending with Leatherface just walking home, show me what happened when he got home. Show me how they decided to shore up what they did so it's not as messy next time and as much of a chance of people getting away. Like, show those kind of things.
Yeah.
Tell the story from the family's perspective. You've watched a lot of slasher movies. A lot of slasher movies. How much do we really care about the victims and why they're there? In all honesty.
Not often.
No, I think it's an element that if you did away with it, you wouldn't be really upsetting anybody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to know that Dean's draft dodging, or that Matt Bomer loves the fact that he's going back to Vietnam and he feels so at home there. I don't need all that.
Yeah.
I don't need, in the remake, I don't need Jessica Biel, you know, being mad that they're selling pot, or mad that she didn't get a ring that he actually had and then just didn't give it to her. I don't need to know all that. They're just, for lack of a better word, they're just food for the killers.
Yeah.
They're there to die to progress the story. And make the final survivor more desperate as more friends are falling off. I don't need a ton of backstory for that. And something that you labeled as the beginning, you could have played with the family dynamic a lot more, instead of just, look here, oh, it's still a Texas Chainsaw movie. It's just now you have more of an idea why Ermey's the sheriff and why the uncle's missing his legs.
Yeah.
There's more meat, forgive the expression, there's more meat on the bones of focusing on the family and telling it from their perspective.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but that should be the way to do it.
A movie that does that really well is The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah.
The Devil's Rejects is told from the perspective of them, and the victims are kind of afterthoughts. Like, we get a small backstory of why they're there, but we don't deep dive.
And that would have been just the year before this, so there was, like, precedent that you could pull that off.
Yeah. So I think that would have been the better way to go with it, and I think The Devil's Rejects kind of proved that, because I'm pretty sure... Do you still think The Devil's Rejects is the best of the series? Or has House of a Thousand Corpses passed it for you now?
House of a Thousand Corpses has kind of won out for me lately, but there was a time where I thought Devil's Rejects was, like, the way above.
Mm-hmm.
But
because it did something different.
Yeah. It was so unexpected.
Yeah. I think... And you had the pieces, and you had some characters you could have worked with.
Yeah.
Like, this movie shouldn't have had the credits roll be, and Arlie Ermey. This movie should have said, starring Arlie Ermey.
Yeah.
Like, Arlie Ermey deserved his own movie, and this could have been it. It pretty much is. You're 80% of the way there. He's in damn near every scene.
Especially how the opening scene is setting up his whole... How he got to where he is. It's his his portion of the prequel as far as how he got to where he is.
Yeah. But once we introduced like Matt Bomer and Jordana Brewster, it became every other slasher movie.
Yeah.
And this they really missed an opportunity to do something different. And this is a series that I would say kind of prides itself on every movie being different.
Yeah,
they still hit the same beats, but we go about it in a completely different way.
Yeah, we were just talking about that with the first 4 movies.
Yeah.
And then like we were saying, even with the one that came before this, the remake, it's like, yeah, it's in that we don't know if we completely like what they're doing, but it's a different take.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that.
Yeah.
It may make it a bit more generic, but from what we've seen before, it's a different take in the Texas franchise.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
Like, I understand the remake. What I kind of equate it to is the remake is kind of like The Force Awakens. We hit familiar beats. We're essentially telling the same story, but with different characters. And then this could have been... I don't want to say it could be The Last Jedi, because half people are going to be like, yeah, and half people are going to be like, oh, God, no. But you had a chance, now that you've established where you're at, you have a chance to do something different that hasn't been done yet with this series. And I'm not talking about like the Netflix one does, where like, oh, it's a whole ghost town. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about changing the entire perspective of what's going on. And you could still hit your beats. You could still hit the meat hook, the dinner scene, decrepit grandpa. You could hit all of that and tell it from the perspective of the Hewitts.
Yeah.
And I think you have an infinitely more interesting movie that has a different story to tell and just doesn't feel like rehash. Because the remake and this one feel like what you typically get with sequels, which is a lot of rehashing.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, is that pretty much our take on the remake and prequel to the remake?
I would say so.
I think you made most of the points that I wouldn't have even thought of. So, and you said them better than I would have. So, I think that pretty much sums up everything. I will attempt that when I talk about the last 3 of the franchise: 3D, Leatherface, and the Netflix one.
I could just, every time you say Leatherface, there's just an air of, oh God, that one. Every time.
Yeah. We'll revisit that, and it's already got a review on this channel, and so does the Netflix one.
But and probably the 3D one too.
It would have been right at the start of this channel when it came out, January of 2013.
It's that old?
Yep.
Damn.
So
I thought it was like 2018.
Nope.
Oh.
Leatherface is 2017.
Oh, well, damn, okay.
So yeah, we're going to talk about those 3, and then when we're done talking about those 3, it's going to be Halloween, and we're going to have one more big video going out.
It's a fun one.
And you're in that one as well.
It's a fun one.
And Ashley and Owen. The gang's all there for our big Halloween finale. So until we get to all that stuff, I think that's it.